to Brackley, like?
No, so I'm relatively. I'm Warwick, so
Oh, right.
we live on the outskirts of Warwick. So for me to get to Brackley is 35 minutes
Yeah,
door
yeah,
to
bang on.
door, just straight down the M40. So lucky, mate. Because to be honest, I've never had to travel. Because when I was at Nuneaton, I literally lived 3 minutes from the grounds until I went to university. Then when I was at uni, I was only at Loughborough, so it was half hour down M69. And then Solihull, I was working in Solihull when I was there. So I was already on site because I was
Right.
working at JLR. So literally, I had to go to Solihull every day for work anyway. Um, and then, yeah, Brackley's 30, 35 minutes, mate. So I've never had to travel for football. I've
No, bang
had
on.
lads
It's
in the
worked out
change and they're
well.
traveling an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I don't have to.
That
So
sound
can't complain.
spot on. As you touched on the football there, I'll just keep the conversation going then. Um, Obviously, you said it started all there, down in Nuneaton. Was that your first sort of big big football club, like?
Yeah, I suppose I was I say fortunate, like not for the club, but for me on a personal level, because the club got liquidated. So when I was like 17, 18, I was in and around. Back in the day, you used to have like reserve teams. And so some of the youth team players would join with first team players on like Wednesday nights and playing these sort of county cup games. So I was sort of integrated within that. And then the club got liquidated, sadly. But five of the youth team players then got signed into the first team just because resources were so stretched. And I was one of them. And then had to sort of sit and wait patiently for sort of 2.5 months. And then just got thrust into things and then kind of never kind of missed a game there really after
Oh,
that moment. So yeah, homegrown sort of lad around the area, and then used to go all the like soccer camps, the football camps and stuff like that, and then managed to go and find myself in the first team, and was there for 7 years, mate. So long
oh,
time.
nice. Yeah, yeah. And what was the feeling like then when that day did come and you had to leave? Was it a move up, or was you sort of forced out, or what happened?
Uh, yeah, it's quite complicated, really. I think the club was going through a bit of a transitional period in terms of ownership. And then they went down a different strategy. So we had a tough final year, didn't really get on particularly well with one of the managers. He was a bit of a bully, to be honest, and not particularly a brilliant person. And then still wanted to listen to the club in the summer. But I went in for a meeting and they told me that um, basically being offered a 50% pay cut, which I was listening. I've never really been financially driven, is the honest answer. And but then they said that the club were going full time. So I was like, well, I've got
Oh,
a
yeah.
daytime job, so that doesn't really sound like an offer. So it felt a little bit like I was forced to leave in a new strategy. So they went full time that year. I went to Solihull and competed against Nuneaton in that league. They were a really good team that year. Um, so yeah, I was sad to leave just because for me, I've been at a club for sort of 7 years. I'm quite an emotive person in terms of I like to integrate myself within clubs when I'm there. Don't really like the hustle and bustle of summers and playing clubs off each other and all
Oh,
the
no.
the stuff that a lot of footballers do nowadays. It's never really been my style. It's never been something I'm too interested in. And so it was a difficult summer, yeah. But then I was lucky because a lot of the lads were headed to Solihull, who I knew from the Nuneaton, lads that I knew from other clubs that were going there. So I know they were putting together a real good team. Um, and yes, when I met the guys at Solihull and ended up signing there, mate, which was difficult summer because I didn't want to leave, but I had no other choice to be honest with you. It kind of
When you say
taken
no
out
other
my
choice,
control.
was it sort of Solihull, or was you looking around elsewhere? No, not even bothering, just
Uh,
the lads are going there, so
no, I got
you went
off.
with them more.
Yeah, I got offered a deal at Tamworth as well, which between me and you, if I'd have signed for Tamworth as an Nuneaton boy, I don't think I would have been welcomed back into
No.
Nuneaton very. And do you know what? That was literally a factor in my decision. Just I know it sounds quite weird, but um, from where I'm from, that's like someone playing for Man United and signing for Liverpool, sort of thing. It's just
Yeah, yeah.
it's not the dumb thing. So yeah, I just never. I went and met him, but I I just thought when I got home or was in the car on the way out, I just thought I can't sign there.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, just didn't
So,
feel right.
and Solihull was brilliant. It was you knew it was going towards a sort of professional environment. And that's why it's quite short lived for me because I knew the club was going to go down that route into sort of like professional environment. So played a part in that, got them to where they sort of wanted to go, and yeah,
Big
love
club,
my
aren't they?
time there. It was a brilliant club. Yeah, brilliant. And to be honest with you, it's got that sort of growth factor where if Blues, West Brom, Wolves, and all those sort of clubs are struggling or are away from home, the sort of it's a good catchment area in terms of attracting fans. It's a big town. So you get like a lot of football people there, and yeah, even from when I went there, the average attendances were like 400. In the end of the year, it was getting closer to sort of 850, 900. So I think that helps when you've got a successful team doing well, which always helps. But equally, it's a good catchment area, and it was. I love my time. It was a great club, really well run. Probably made me realise how chaotic the Nuneaton sort of 7 years were when you go into like a little bit more of normality. I call it normality, but yeah, just a really well structured, well run club, and it's no surprise that they've gone on to bigger and better things since they've gone.
Yeah.
Really,
No, fair play. Who was the gaffer there at the time? Was many lads there, like you say, many notable names.
yeah. So Marcus Bignett was the gaffer. Great guy, really confident manager. So he really believes in what he does, which I think sort of was reflected into the playing group. Because when you listen to him, he's very confident in what he does. And yeah, in terms of players, we were spoilt for riches really when you went through the squad, the depth. Like, I mean, Darryl Knights in the 10 was an unbelievable player, and then you had James Armstrong as a sort of almost a second 10. And you look at the career James has had, centre midfielders Ryan Beswick, Callum Gittins, Adam Walkers, Jack Burns, and then Michael Nottingham, who's gone on to be a league football player, Connor Franklin, Liam Daly, Theo Street, Danny Lewis.
Yeah, Neymar.
It's just name after name, really. We were, the squad depth was unbelievable, and no surprise that I think when you walked in pre-season, you knew that you were going to be there or thereabouts if everyone was level-headed. And luckily, it was a great group.
And you were there for, was it just a one season? Is that right?
Yeah, I did 1 year, 2015-16, and then got a call from Mr. Wilkins that summer, and ended up having a meeting with him somewhere over in Northampton direction, and yeah, he persuaded me to come over to Brackley.
Did you know him anyway, or not really?
Yeah, like a gaffer. He was my gaffer at Nuneaton for.
Oh, sorry.
Well, my entirety of my, other than the final year, and then he obviously went on to Wrexham. Tried to take me to Wrexham with him, but between me and you, it's just never been that interested in full-time football. Always been quite educational sort of background and work and stuff like that. So, relocating to Wrexham and stuff like that just wasn't something I wanted to do, and he probably knew that, but he tried to take me with him. And then our paths crossed again, obviously, when he got the job at Brackley. Told me about the sort of, I think the thing for him was to survive that year when we'd won the league at Solihull. I think they stayed up with like the last kick of a game or something, or the last game of the season. I think Glenn scored to keep him in that league. So it was a little bit frowned upon when you've won a league with someone and then you go and sign for a club that have just scraped up to stay in that same league. But yeah, I knew what his ambitions were. I knew what the club's ambitions were, and sort of trusted him and came over to Brackley.
Did you know much about Brackley, or was it all Kevin that brought you here? Really, is sort of when you had that phone call, was it a no-brainer to go and play for him again?
Yeah, like my trust was in him at the time, is the honest answer. Like, obviously now I've got a real affiliation with the football club and the people that run the football club, and I love them to pieces. So it's grown over the years. But I mean, when I signed there, like, I didn't know those people, didn't really speak too much about those people. It was very much that relationship that I had with the manager that persuaded me to come. Again, like James Armstrong was signing there, as a very close friend of mine. My best pal Adam Walker was leaving Solihull. who's my my closest friend. So there was an element of that there as well. So yeah, two factors really. It's like very close friends who were going in that direction, who I trust, and also a gaffer at the time who I trust as well. So yeah, it weren't a complicated decision for me really. It was quite simplistic in the end.
Yeah. So obviously as everyone will know, 10 years now at Brackley, which is, you know what I mean, you're a legend there now, aren't you? Obviously some goals along the way that have sort of secured that status as well. I mean, let's talk about that final day this season. Obviously, first of all, Frood, I haven't congratulated you obviously on your promotion to National League, which is
No, thank you,
huge.
mate.
Obviously, going into that final day, you were level on points, weren't you, at Kidderminster at the top, which obviously their goal difference was a bit better off. What was the feeling going in? Was it like they did you have a
Yeah,
feeling they were going to drop points, or was it look, we'll
yeah.
just do our
I
job and
think
see what happens?
a bit of both. I think I don't know. I think when you're in those positions, it's hard to put in like the level of pressure that they were under, and it does do something different to your legs. Like your mind might feel really focused, but your legs, weigh a little bit heavier. And I don't know. I had a feeling on the day. It's a difficult place to go. It's quite a narrow pitch. It's quite a dry, open kind of environment. Like you get a bit of a wind off the coastline, so it's a tricky place to go and play football. Southport always has been. So a little bit of me knew that. But yeah, they were going like a steam train. And I remember having a conversation after they beat us at home on the Tuesday night. They beat us 1-0 and there was like 5 games still to play. And I came into the changing room with the boys after and basically said, like, I've been in their position with the shoe on the other foot where we beat Gateshead at home 1-0 and were probably like 4 or 5 points clear. And they won their final 5 games and we dropped points and they end up winning the league. So I said to the lads after, I said, like, it ain't done. And, the gaffer's mindset is exactly the same. Like, he'll never lie down. So for him, it was just like, right, move on, done. But yeah, we had a real belief in the thing. And then obviously when you're out on the pitch and our game kind of went the way it did, where, you get a goal, you get another goal, you get a man sent off. It's like, the game's kind of won. And then you hear the noise in the crowd where our fans, so a goal's gone in. Then there's that sort of like a little bit of eerie sort of silence around that sort of nervousness or that nervy edge from our fans. So you don't really know what's happening. And yeah, it was kind of a little bit weird because you're playing a football match really when you want to be stood on the side of your phone, like watching the final minutes of the other game because you know that your game's done. And then people ran on the pitch, but they were very young. You know what I mean? So again, until someone you sort of trust just said, like, no, like we've done it, couldn't really sort of celebrate.
No,
So the lads sort of stood around awkwardly for 20, 30 seconds, waiting for someone adult to actually confirm it. And then, yeah, obviously when that was confirmed, mate, it was lots of jumping and bouncing around, mate.
mental.
9 years of jumping and bouncing around, yeah, because it's been a long wait.
You just touched on obviously your feelings there going in the last 5 games, but I just wanted to touch on obviously the record you had in the playoffs. Was there any part of the season where that played in your mind? Look, we've got a terrible record in the playoffs. We don't want to get in that situation again. Was it always, look, we're going to win the league?
You know what, the gaffer's got like a real uniqueness about him with that, because I think we were like 17th early in the season and our form weren't particularly great, and he'd come into like we do analysis in the week and team meetings in the week, and he'd come in and he'd be like, listen, I'm here to win the league. When we're 17th, there's no diversion, there's no deviation from what his ambition is. There's no finishing second. It just doesn't come into his mind. And I think that's really important because, as a playing group, when he just reiterates it and that inner belief within you, even when lads are having, fluctuations in form, he's just like, no, I signed you to win the league. So he's a massive part of it. But yeah, I think it's just, obviously when you've suffered that many times in the playoffs, if you can avoid it, then absolutely you're going to try and avoid it. But every single time we go into the league, we try and win it. It's not
Oh,
been
sure.
trying to finish second, third. And I just think sometimes you look at it, and I remember saying in the non-league paper, look at some of the teams that have pipped us or beat us. They're really, really good teams. Like the Harrogate team that beat us, I think they pretty much kept 90% of that team that started in the National League, and then they got back-to-back promotions. So, they're a very good team. Salford City team, really good team. The Gateshead team, you've got lads that have gone on, they're League Two Championship footballers, League One footballers. Like Macaulay Langstaff as a Championship striker, Sedwin Scott, I think he's now League Two. We've worked with Notts County. You've got Owen Bailey, who's captain at Doncaster, just won League Two. So you're competing against boys that are on a massively upward curve, and sometimes you just have to applaud the opposition and say, that they're a real good team.
So looking at obviously the Brackley team, then how good is this squad you've got this season compared to previous seasons?
Yeah, I think we've over the years, you look at the players that we've lost. If you put them all together, you've got a hell of a team, and I think that's what's been really unique with Brackley, because you've got so many good players have come and gone, and they just keep churning out good players. And the team that we had this year was very together. Lots of athleticism, pace, power, just high speed running, fitness, with some technical quality in there as well, some match winners in there, and a real, like I said, grit and determination. And yes, it's been a fantastic group that we've had. But equally, over the years, I've been spoilt to play with some unbelievable players. Like you're looking at, like I said, your Adam Walkers, your James Armsteds, your Glenn Walkers, your Shetmore and Bedsies, your Leanne Loves, Connor Halls, Louis Lomases, Thierry O'Dowd's. Like I've been spoilt with centre half partners, let alone the rest of the pitch. I look at the lads that I've actually got to, brush shoulders with as a centre half partner. Alex Goodjoe, one of my close mates, he's again, like I've had so many. The list is endless. So I think the club's just been really lucky to have great players over the years. But that's just a reflection of the club as well. But yeah, the group that we've got at the minute is really special. It's a great group. Hopefully we can retain a high percentage of that group, and then just add some real quality on top to get some National League quality in there as well.
What's your thoughts on National League? Have you sort of looked at the season ahead? Have you, when you're back at pre-season, have you started planning with the gaffer? Has the gaffer started making some moves yet, Yeah,
like the gaffer's, he's very proactive. He's as proactive as they come. So whilst things might seem a little bit quiet at times in terms of announcements and stuff like that, he's in pretty much every room speaking to all the players that he wants to speak to. So doesn't mean you're going to pull them all off, but he'll certainly try, and he'll certainly be in all those rooms, which is important. And yeah, things will be happening. It's still a little bit silly season at the minute. Do you know what I mean? Football's changing now. Like I said at the start, mate, it's different from when I first started. You'd walk in there and be asking for an extra 10 quid or something like that, and walk out with a fiver and go thanks. Like it's a different world sometimes now. And then you've got lads that are in step 3 of non-league football with agents and who are wanting fees and this, that, and the other. It's difficult to navigate, and I'd say it's probably silly season at the minute where it's a player's market, you can say. But that soon settles down, and then clubs start to use their budgets and stuff like that, and players start to get a little bit nervy and stuff like that, and it starts to settle down. So yeah, it's still a little bit silly season at the minute, but yeah, we'll be competitive in terms of conversations, I'm sure, and it's something to look forward to, mate. Because, like I said, I think it's sometimes refer it to a kid going to school for the first time in that playground and meeting new people. I always think pre-season is an exciting time, because particularly when you've been promoted like we have, because in the day it's just another opportunity to try and recruit better players and take it to the next step. So I'll be excited to meet some new teammates and also some of the old boys from last year as well.
Fair enough. Have you? I know season's not long finished. When are you getting back on the pitch and pre-season training? When's that start?
Yeah, so like I said, everything's a lot more professional nowadays. Like when I was at the Nuneaton, mate, it'd be come off your lads' holiday, not much structure to it. It'd be go run behind that tree, and which is about 4.5 miles away, and I'll see you in about 2 hours. And when you get back, you do some press ups or something. Whereas now it's a lot more structured. You get off season plans, almost like a pre-season plan that gets sent out to players once they've signed. So you're going back in real good condition, and a lot of it's just technical work and the way we want to play, and then just sort of topping you up in terms of volume and numbers. So I think we'll go back. Typically, it's like that final week of June. So I think it'd be like week commencing the 23rd, sometime within that week, 26th, 7th, whenever it falls. Go in, we'll do testing. So we'll get weighed and make sure we've not enjoyed our summers too much. And then we our strength and conditioning sort of physio will put us through our paces in terms of some testing work. Crunch those numbers, make sure the lads are in and around where they should be. We get comparables from years before, and then you start into the fun stuff, mate. The running dogs, and but again, everything's a little bit more evolved now. It's a lot of it's done with balls, so you get your volumes in, you get your work into the lads' legs, but there's more balls involved nowadays, and sharp, small-sided stuff. So. The gaffer and the coaches are really good at that side of things, so it's always enjoyable. And hopefully the old man myself won't be too far behind and keep up with the youngsters, mate. It's always fun.
Have you got, just going back to National League there, have you got your eye on any grounds? Obviously some big clubs in there, obviously Carlisle and Morecambe have just come down from League Two. Two massive, obviously, Football League clubs. Southend obviously lost the final yesterday. There's some big teams in there. Are you anywhere you're looking forward to going this season? Have you looked at?
No, I've been at places before, because when I was at Nuneaton, I've played Aldershot, Woking. So I always get excited to go to new places. And I'm quite old-fashioned. I like the old, the stadiums that sometimes look like they're going to fall over when you get there. I like those sort of like old-fashioned, sort of traditional football stadiums. So some of the ones you just mentioned there, mate, I think sort of would be similar to that. It's exciting, mate, because it's obviously bigger crowds, which I think every football player wants to play in front of as many people as they can, otherwise you're in the wrong place. That sort of pressure cooker. I think nothing. I suppose, the big ones, you sort of Carlisles and stuff like that will be exciting, but they all will be, mate. Like, a lot of the lads wouldn't have played in a lot of those stadiums, so I think it's just exciting to go and test yourself against better opposition. And the club's ambitious at the end of the day. It doesn't want to just sort of scrape and stay in the league. It wants to push and try to evolve, and if I can play a small part in that, I'd be excited to do it.
Nice. I have, obviously, you mentioned the people that run the club there. I have been up to the club a few times. I've met the owners and stuff. What have you had any conversations with them? What are they like? Is the backing coming for this season? Not saying throw any figures at us or anything like that, but I mean, are they more than ready to go for this season coming up?
Yeah, I think the owner's an ambitious person. It's took the club longer than what he would have wanted to get to where we are. So he's not going to be the sort of person to then just go, I'll just rest on my laurels and settle. Yeah. So I think first thing will be that the gaffer will probably have to work from a bit of a bigger playing squad. Throughout the course of the Conference North, with injuries, I think we went to Peterborough Sports and we literally had 12 players. The numbers in terms of a playing squad will have to be enhanced. I think that'll be the first thing that the club has to do. The structure of the week, so the club won't go full time, but they'll certainly try to bridge the gap between a lot of the teams that are full time and also hybrid. Now there's a lot of teams that are hybrid, so they'll try to bridge that gap, which the gaffer will have some plans around. And then like I said, it's trying to be in the rooms and have conversations with players that we've earmarked that we want to speak to, and be competitive and have conversations. At the end of the day, there's going to be clubs out there that are spoilt for riches, let's say. I think you look at some of the clubs and the resources they've got, but equally you know, Brackley's a great club. It's a club that I'll forever be an advocate of now because I've seen how well it's run, and I think we'll pull a strong squad together, and Gaffer will create an environment for the lads which will be enjoyable but also professional, and see where that sort of takes us, mate.
Yeah, fair play. Obviously, non-league growing in it massively especially over the last few years. I think it's get more and more people coming to watch it. It shows yesterday, Wembley, obviously, non-league final, 50,000 there. That's madness, isn't it? Obviously,
No,
Wembley's
I think,
a ground.
mate, it's
Sorry, go on, mate.
No, I'd say like it's like to have 50,000 people at a non-league football match is mental. Like I think when we went with Bromley in the FA Trophy, it was like what 33,000. To get that many is absolutely, it's mental. So yeah, I don't know. I've always kept my eye on non-league more so than professional football, just because of where I've always been, and I'm quite interested in it. So at all steps, I always try to keep my eyes and ears open to see what's happening at all steps of non-league. So it's growing numbers since I've come through at Brackley. They're amazing with like the kids set up. So the amount of kids that come and watch, and the girls and boys teams down there bring their parents along, and it's always growing, mate, which is nice to see, really. So it's nice to see the involvement in non-league football.
Oh, good. As I mentioned, Wembley there. Obviously, it's a ground you have played at. You mentioned the FA Trophy there. I mean, what a day that was for the club. Starting of the day, obviously, how does that day compare to obviously the final day of the season when you obviously have achieved that promotion? How does the Wembley day compare to that?
Mate, they're a bit different, to be honest. I think the Wembley day was a journey which was mental in itself. I think we had to win 11. Well, not win it. We had to play 11 football matches to win that that tournament, and the whole build up to the day was quite surreal. Like we trained at Arsenal's training ground the day before. We used their facilities. We stayed in a nice hotel, and it's out of the normal, let's say, to what you're sort of used to. Eating on a Tuesday night out of a Tupperware box on the back of a coach, and turning up late to games because you've hit traffic and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a different environment, and the game itself was just surreal when you actually watch it back. There's so much luck involved. Like they missed chances, but then we missed chances in extra time and normal time, and then the penalty shootout and stuff like that. It's just a game which I think sometimes I say to myself, like, did you use that much luck in that game that you've sort of used it all up, and that's why you keep losing in the playoffs? But and then it's the actual league itself was, for me, mate, initially it was almost like a sense of relief over that sort of ecstatic feeling. For me, the initial one was like a sense of relief, just because you've tried on a personal level. I've tried so many times. I've had so many kind of like lonely summers, let's say, where you're training by yourself and you're trying to come back stronger and more focused and stuff like that. And I suppose that's one of my big strengths is my mentality, and that's something that I'd say is a uniqueness, because as a captain, you have to deal with football players all the time, and I think something that I've been very good at is regulating myself, and always believing that it will happen, and if it takes 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, however, the club's gonna be here a lot longer than me, and if I can play a small part in getting into that and holding their own in the National League, at the end of the day, my career will come to an end sooner rather than later. And there'll be someone to pick up the mantles after me and the reins after me and drive it forward. So, they're both different games in itself, but I think just the sheer relief and stuff, and in terms of that promotion and what it means to the club now, because I do believe the club can drive forward and take that next step. I absolutely love that day. Whereas the FA Trophy is just 1 in a million, in it. It's crazy.
When you say take that next step, what do you mean by that? Is that just sort of made to stay in that league and maintain themselves as a National League club? You reckon they could all be
Yeah, I mean,
pushing higher than that?
yeah, it'll be like, I'm sure the club will have, a short term and a long term plan, and whatever that is. No, I won't be involved in those conversations as such. So, but like I said, the manager is an ambitious manager. He won't want to just rest on his laurels. The owner is an ambitious person. Jan, Ollie, Matt, who's taken over from Ollie, they're all very competitive people that want to do well, and I think that's a reflection of Brackley just in general, because it'd be very easy for, after all the failures as such, with all the successes we've had in the day, don't want to finish second, and we finished second too many times in terms of the league, in not getting promoted. But the club just keeps coming back and fighting and swinging punches and trying again and again and again. They don't lie down and just give up, and that's a reflection of the club in itself. So I just think that whole philosophy and mentality will be exactly the same now. It's not going to be resting on their laurels. They want to drive it forward. So I don't know, like they'll have a 2-year plan, a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, I'm sure. Whatever that is, I don't know.
Oh, fair play. Obviously, just going back to you personally then, obviously that day at Wembley, first of all, what's it like playing and Wembley? That's like everyone's dream, isn't it? As a footballer to play on that ground, and you've done that.
Yeah, it's the whole thing's surreal. Like you come in, the change rooms to just almost like a big circle. They're just you got your own little space, but then they have these like rooms coming off them, so they've almost got like an indoor activation room, which is like a little football court in a room off the changing room, and they have like another sort of section coming off the main change room, which has almost got these sort of like cryo type bath before you get into like the bathroom section. So, mate, it's almost like a maze when you're walking around the change room. You've got all these different sections. So yeah, that was crazy. And then when you get on the pitch, mate, it's just it's like, that was another thing when we trained at Arsenal's training ground, which I didn't know. Their groundsman cuts the grass. So when Arsenal are in like FA Cup finals, he cuts the grass in the exact same way they're going to cut the grass at Wembley on the final day. So we trained on a pitch which had been cut exactly the same way that they were going to cut the grass on Wembley, which I know is just absolutely mental. That sort of like nitpicking, and that just shows you what the top level clubs are doing, mate. But yeah, just it was quite weird because obviously it's not a full stadium, so at times at certain areas of the pitch, even though it's a massive stadium, it felt a little bit quiet. But yeah, like when goals are going in and celebrations were going and stuff like that, it was loud, and yeah, it's just a quality day. Something you never think. Like, do you know what I mean? I've never been at an academy, so for me, I come through Sunday League local football. I've enjoyed my football as a kid. Was always a scruffy footballer in youth team, but I've always been a leader. So I've almost found myself in the position I am through my leadership qualities and stuff. And then I learned to respect myself as I got a little bit older in terms of what I bring to a football team, I suppose. But if you'd have ever said to me that I'd be captaining a winning team, walking up the Wembley steps as a kid playing Sunday League football, then I just never would have thought that would have been a thing. So it's something that I'll look back at for the rest of my days and be very proud of, and I've achieved a lot, and that's something which will be very high up the list.
I think you forget little bits like that, didn't you? Like we're going to talk about, you think, winning at Wembley, but the little things like walking at their steps and walking as a winner up them steps to claim your trophy, like you forget about bits like that. But when you obviously speaking about it now, it's something. It's mental.
That was one of my favourite bits of the day, like, because everything's so intense, and you don't really get much time to actually soak it in. The celebrations are intense and stuff like that. The game's very intense. It's very emotive. Like you feel drained after. And obviously, I got to walk at the very back when we were climbing the steps, and people are sort of leaning over and shaking your hand and saying, "Well done." But that's like probably the only time where it's a little bit quiet and you actually get a little bit of time to yourself to look around your surroundings and go, "Oh wow, what have we actually just done here?" And yeah, the walk up the steps was one of my favourite bits, really, because it's such a unique sort of setting in it, and yeah, like I said, it's the only time in the day that you actually got to reflect and just get a little bit of time to yourself to actually just say what have we actually achieved, which was nice. So yeah, I enjoyed that.
Very good. So then going back to the second part of my question, totally the other end of the spectrum there. What was it like scoring at Wembley, and obviously in the scenario you did, and then was in the 96th minute equaliser to take it to extra time? Was there feelings of, it's not our day, it's 96th minute, and obviously you finally broke through and got that goal?
Yeah, I just think like we chucked the kitchen sink at it. I think Jimmy will be openly, uh, he'd openly admit he missed some chances. But don't know, I think just the way the game was going, we were just chucking everything at it, and um, Lowy has a shot which hits the post, and even that it bounces out, and luckily get that touch to take it in. But it's just that you do get a little sense of like, is it going to be our day? But I remember when you actually watch the game, I made a tackle at 1-0, which pretty much sprinted with their striker from the halfway line and made a tackle to keep it at 1-0. And I sometimes think back and think that tackle was probably more important at the time than the actual scoring. And the reason was because I think if they scored that goal, it would have been game over. So there were so many in the game, like ups and downs. I think even in the first half, they had a big chance to make it 2-0. And I think it would have just been a real tough game after that.
Yeah.
They didn't take that. Their skipper hits the outside of the post in the penalty shootout. So, yeah, I just think I do believe you just need a little bit of luck in those occasions as well. As much as you can play well, we played really well on the day, but equally, Bromley had chances to win the football matches, the football match, and they didn't take them. And like I said, you need that little bit of luck. If the opposition are going to give you opportunities, then you have to take them. And it felt like we weren't taking them. And then luckily get a goal, and then extra times is a difficult thing. It's very heavy legs at that point. Everyone's given absolutely everything. So no one wants to make a mistake. And then it goes to a penalty shootout, and it's just, one team's got to win, haven't they? And we took some amazing penalties. Boys, I think I did say that I'd take a penalty. I think I said I'd go at number 7, and I remember the gaffer was like, "I'll put you as number 9." I was like, "Cheers, gaffer." Hopefully, I don't have to take. Hopefully, I don't have to take one now. You put that faith in me. But the boys who took it, it's just such a pressure cooker environment, and it takes some bottle to do that.
Yeah. Was your the rest of the lads confident stepping up there? Hence, were they all panicking, or did you?
We had some real good pen takers. Yeah,
you did. Yeah, everyone was confident enough.
Yeah, like we had up back now, and Andy Brown, who scored the winning penalty, mate, he's as laid back as they come. I'm sure deep down inside him, he was, don't want to swear, but he was, he's definitely not too healthy in that environment. But James Armson, Glenn Walker, even Shane Burns. Shane missed one, and that's he's an unbelievable penalty taker. Aaron Williams. So we had some real good pen takers, some real confident boys in front of goal. I remember when James took his penalty, their goalkeeper was coming out and giving it loads to him and really trying to, get under his skin and get in his head. And James was basically giving a little bit back, telling him to get back on his line, and then puts it in the goal. And, he gives a little bit back to their goalkeeper. So even stuff like that, you don't necessarily see it when you stood in the crowd and stuff like that. And when you're very nervous and you've got a goalkeeper that's holding onto the ball and putting it down on the spot for you, and giving you a little bit in your ear and stuff like that. It's all part of the mind games and part of the game and stuff like that. And luckily our boys held their nerve. And like I said, mate, it takes some serious bottle to go and do that. And we worked on penalties, but most of the boys executed them perfectly, which is good.
What happened that night? Was you out in London that night then, or was it back to Brackley?
Well, mate, no, went out in London, so stayed in a hotel, and then what didn't happen that night is probably a better question, mate. It was just
Carnage.
Chaos, man. I think stumbled through the door at about 6 a.m. So
Yeah.
great night, great. But even that's just part of the whole. I've always been very. I was brought up by people at Nuneaton in terms of like my mentors at Nuneaton, like Guy Adlands and stuff like that. And I remember we used to home games, sit in the bar and have drinks after games. And I'd have to contact my mum and be like, "Oh, mum, I've had too many to drink. Can you come pick me up?" And I'd have to leave my car there and stuff like that. So that's for me has always been a big part of football. So I always enjoy my days out with the lads and my nights out with the lads and stuff like that because I think it's important. And mate, the night out was just as good as the day. To be honest with you, it was brilliant.
I bet. Yeah. Do you think, going slightly off football there, do you think football's losing that now? I know I've never played nowhere near your level, but Sunday leagues and stuff, the lads don't do that anymore. You barely get lads to have a beer on a Sunday after a game now.
Yeah, I think, mate, it's just the professional element of football now. Like you do have to maintain yourselves. I think football's changing in terms of the professional side of it. But yeah, like that's one when I signed at Brackley, I remember the gaffer. We didn't talk money. He just literally said, "I'll make you my captain, and first thing I need to do is sort my change room out." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I've got lads that if they don't play, they don't shower and they just dip off. I've got lads that do play, and every weekend they've got a family event that they need to disappear to. They don't sit together, they don't mingle with the fans, they don't sit in the bar, they don't have a drink, they don't stay for 10 minutes, let alone half an hour after the game." And if you come to Brackley games now, I basically the first thing I did was put on the fine sheet to say that you're not allowed to leave before a certain time. So now the lads will sit all together, we'll eat together, win, lose or draw, show a little bit of respect to the opposition as well. Do you know what I mean? Like don't just start getting in your car. So win, lose or draw, we sit together, we eat together. We'll go and get our drinks from the bar, which is in the main bar where the fans are. So you're crossing paths with the fans, you're talking to the fans, which is just really important. I think that's what brings that sort of like unity and togetherness. Like you see some fans on Twitter now that are very vocal about teams. I know performances and results are a massive part of it, but I think there's always a disconnect between players and fans sometimes. And sometimes I think that is because players don't integrate with the fans, they don't interact with the fans. And then you're just setting yourself up when results are not good for those fans to have a sour taste in their mouth because one, you're earning decent money playing for a football team and your results are not good. And also you're not interacting with fans that pay good money to come and watch you and probably just want 2 minutes of your time just to talk. And you go around Brackley, like all the lads will be chatting to the fans. The fans enjoy that. The lads enjoy the fans' company as well. There's a great bunch of fans there. But yeah, like I think it's just a massive part of football. But you are right. I mean, I'm not saying everyone should be having a beer and drinking and stuff like that in modern day football, but in non-league football, I don't think it's harmful to have a cider after a game on Saturday. So
No, good. So obviously you have just signed a new contract at Brackley. Is that a 1 year deal or is it a bit longer than that? Or what's the crack there?
1 year deal, yeah, mate.
Yeah.
Dog's barking.
Mm-hmm.
1 year deal. I don't get 2 year deals at my age, mate.
No.
But yeah, it's a no brainer for me, mate. I've enjoyed my time at the club. So yeah, another year, which will take me to 36. I still feel really good. Still feel really fit, really athletic, strong. So I back myself to go and compete at that level and lead the team. And I'm looking forward to the challenge, mate. More hungry than ever. Which is I'm working hard in the gym already, which is what I'm always like. So yes, look, I'm fortunate because the club have always been really kind to me and always looked after me, and it's one of the reasons I've always stayed there is just because I said at the start of this, mate, I don't like the hustle and bustle of pre-season. Lads trying to play clubs off each other, and sometimes I look at lads' careers and I think they're better footballers than certain players, but because they don't get any like continuity or any, I don't know, like connection to the club they're playing for. sometimes they don't actually fulfil their potential. And something that's always been really important to me as a football player is I want to have that connection to the club that I play for. I want to have that, that feeling of wanting to, win for the football club that I play for, and not just have like selfish ambitions. Do you know what I mean? That's something that I've never been as a football player. I've always tried to, wear my heart on my sleeve, and I think Jan and Ollie and the club will tell you that I've always wanted to be a good captain as well as a football player. I've always wanted to do my best by the football club off the pitch and grow the club and help them with the club side of things, not just the playing side of things. And it's a no-brainer for me to stay where I am, mate. I'm very happy and love my time at the club, so that's where I'll be.
Good man, fair enough. Well, I have got just in front of me. I've got the quote that obviously Gavin Cowan said when he announced your deal. He said, "Yeah, your cornerstone of the football club, your commitment oozes through the squad." That being said, there were no easy passes. Gaz needs to raise his levels like he's done on many occasions. When he come out of a comment like that, does that affect you? You got it in you to raise it again? Are you confident
He knows me well,
you
like
can do the job?
Yeah, he knows me well, like, and he says stuff like that because he knows that I'll come back in peak condition, and he's a clever guy. So for me, I know what he does with comments like that because he just wants me to be on my toes. Like, do you know what? It's something that I've never really had to have either. Is like something that managers have never had to worry about with me is like complacency. Like, I want to come in and at my age now, I want to still be, in the top three when we do the testing. I want to come in and be able to say that I'm still in and around it and stuff like that. So yes, you can get older and stuff like that, but for someone at my age, I think I'm in real good condition. I've always looked after myself, which I think's important. Don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed myself, but I've always looked after myself as well. So no, he knows what he'll get out of me and stuff like that, which is a very driven individual. Can't help but try to drive the standards. It's what I've always been like. And I don't think you can drive standards if you're sloppy within yourself. And what I mean by that is the way you look after yourself, the way you play. I always think sometimes as a position that I play in, sometimes just need to be that sort of steady, boring person that isn't, in the limelight all the time, but just is almost like that safety blanket for other boys to feel secure around and stuff like that. And I've never been someone that constantly needs plaudits or people to pat me on the back. I know when I've played well and I know when I've played poorly. I'm very reflective of my own performances, which is rare now because lads don't want to critique themselves. They don't want to watch their own games back because sometimes it can be painful watching. Whereas I'll sometimes sit if I'm not out and about on a Saturday or out for food or whatever. I'll sit and watch the game back on a Saturday night, which is quite sad just to watch certain moments that are in my head that I think I can do better, or I did that well, or could I have done this differently? And that's just what I'm like, mate. Quite obsessive with it, to be honest.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Like you say, it sounds like you're gearing up well for the next season. Just touch on the gaffer there, obviously. Kevin Wilkins, obviously gaffer before for a long time. How do the two gaffers compare? Is it totally different styles, or is there similarities there?
They've got common traits. I think they're both fantastic human beings to start with, which is a common trait in them both. They're both loyal, which again is common traits in them both. I think the gaffer now is probably evolved in terms of the professionalism and the way that your team meetings and your analysis, and he's probably tried to have more awkward conversations with the club around the what the club needs to do in terms of not becoming stale. And what I mean by that is all the sort of little, what he calls them, the 1%, trying to gain all the little 1% that amass to bigger growth opportunities. So, and he's doing that all the time. He challenges the football club all the time and says we need this, and sometimes he gets told no, I'm sure, but no, he won't stop if he believes in something. An example would be, Brackley haven't always done overnight stays, so sometimes we'll be travelling to like Blythe on a Saturday morning, leaving at 6:15 in the morning. you're never ever going to be in peak physical condition at 3 p.m. On a Saturday afternoon. So, he's a big believer in overnights at the right moments, which, because the club haven't done that over the years, it's a change. And, you have to go and back it up with results. And if you look at our results in the North East last year, they're all really positive, and that was from doing overnight stays. So, that was something that he wanted to do. Things like GPSs and being able to track data now is a big part of football, mainly not just from being able to say you're not running hard enough. It's also to be able to manage certain players' loads, like after injuries, to make sure you're not making them do 25k when they did 0k the week before, and you're building up their volume and making sure you're not repeating injuries and stuff. So just things like that, really. But they're both, going back to your original question, both incredible humans. The gaffer, Kev Wilkins, was unbelievable at getting extra percents out of you with little mind games or planting little seeds, and having that connection with him. He'd make you run through brick walls, but Gaffer now, Gav Cowan, is exactly the same. Looks after his players. He's immensely loyal. He'll back you, even if you're out of form. He'll always back you. He'll have awkward conversations with people to back you. And as a football player, when you've got a manager that's willing to do that, and sometimes it might be at their kind of what's the words? It can put them at risk sometimes, if they back players that are not performing. So both incredible humans, both great managers, and it's no surprise that if you look at their records, and they've both achieved quite a lot in not just football themselves, but also in management as well.
Fair play. Obviously, before I come on with you tonight, I'll just put a post online. Just looking for some questions from some of the fans there. I'm just going to run through them if that's all right with you.
That's fine, mate.
Yeah. So, obviously you must know, I haven't got his last name to hand, but Will from the club does all the commercial stuff.
Grashov.
Yeah. He asked when would you are you eventually going to become the Brackley manager?
Oh, I don't know about that. I had to go at that for a small period of time, but I'll leave that to the gaffer for now. He's no, it's do you know what, mate? It's never been something which I think, because everyone thinks that you've been a captain, that you're always going to naturally go into that. I'm not sure yet, is the honest answer.
No.
I think I'll be starting a family soon, and stuff like that will take over and prioritize and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's I love the club. I'd love to be involved with the club in some way, shape, or form for future years, and I'll cross that bridge when it comes. But they've got a fantastic manager in place at the minute who will have a fantastic career, and I think he'll really drive Brackley onto bigger and better things. I truly believe that, because he's an incredible manager and an incredible person, and the club are lucky to have him, as he is lucky to have the club as well. So, is
that your stance in it then? You're just focusing on playing now? Have you thought about the next step just yet?
No, I just think you start. Do you know what, mate? I don't get too far ahead of everything. I think you start worrying about, I'm going to do this, that, and the other. But I'm fortunate that I've always been relatively lucky. I've got a decent job. I've never relied on my football side of things. So for me, it's just I've always been in a position where it's not been a stress to me. It's always been an enjoyment, and it's always been something that I can have as a sense of like relief and enjoyment. So, I think for me, I remember when I did the management role, and I was literally like, John, I just want to get out of this. I want to be back on a football pitch doing what I'm good at. And I still feel like I've got a lot to offer on the football pitch. So I always said to myself, the day that I feel like I'm letting my teammates down, or I've got some good people around me that would be able to tap me on the shoulder and say, your time's up, who I trust. And for now, mate, that's where I want to be at on the football pitch. I haven't thought too much ahead of that.
I've got another question that fits you there quite nicely, but because you mentioned your spell as the interim manager there, was there any difference doing that in your relationships, with day-to-day business around the club with the players, and any relationships? Was it was it a bit hard speaking to players as that gaffer role rather than a
Yeah,
co-player next to him?
yeah, it's difficult because when you're a captain and lads are out the team, you're the person that wraps your arm around them and takes them to a quiet corner and speaks to them and tells them to, next week's a different week and stuff like that. So you're the one that emotionally knows how to deal with people in different ways, because everyone does need dealing with. Some people want to go and punch a glass mirror. Some people want to go and have a sulk by themselves in the corner, and you've got to be able to navigate different personalities. And that's something that you have to learn as a captain of a football team. And then when you're a manager, I remember when I was doing it, it just seemed like everyone was coming out of the injury room and coming into the changing room. So we just had this big squad where the club had backed Roger Johnson and brought in new players, but they were all available at the same time. So I wasn't leaving one or two out of the squad. I was leaving threes and fours out of the squad. And then I was leaving fours and fives out of the team. And it was just extremely difficult when you're having not 1-2 conversations. You almost feel like you're having 6-7 conversations in terms of picking a team and also a squad. So I'll never forget, I left Jordan Richards out of a squad in the quarter-final against Gloucester, and I gave him my reasoning. And the main reasoning was that I felt like the two centre midfielders, Shep and Alfie, just had that much athleticism and legs that I'd never have to replace them, even to get extra legs in the midfield. And that kind of came into sort of fruition in front of my eyes. I thought, right, it's actually happening. And I thought if the game went to penalties, that Richo wouldn't be a pen taker as such. And I had Adam Rooney, and Adam Rooney would be a pen taker. James Armstrong would be a pen taker. So I ended up picking a team suitable, and it ended up happening the way I thought it would, which I'm not saying is a good thing. But I then played the semi-final, and I said to Richo, just stay with me. I've been honest with you, which is all I can be. I've gave you my opinion. It's happened. If it hadn't happened, I'm sure you would have kicked lumps out of me. And then I started him in the semi-final against Chester. So he'd been out of the squad against Gloucester, and then he came and started against Chester because I felt like the game against Chester was suitable for him, and I needed him to play in that game. And he was probably up there with man of matches in that game because he had the bit between his teeth. He was unbelievable. He had a job role to do within that certain game, and he just did it to a plumb. It was unbelievable. And I think that was just something that I learned. I think you got to have awkward conversations as a manager, but if you're honest with people, then they'll respect you a little bit more than managers that try and pull the wool over your eyes and stutter when they're speaking and stuff like that. So it was difficult because probably got some friends who were friends before who ain't friends anymore. It is what it is. And then you've got lads who probably look at you a little bit differently in terms of actually love you a little bit more because of I was myself. I enjoyed it. I was emotional in terms of just tried to be like I was as a captain, which doesn't always work as a manager. And I enjoyed certain parts of it, but I despise certain parts of it as well, as the honest answer.
Moving on. One of the questions I got here was obviously you've been yourself a great leader. Who's the strongest leader you've sort of played under and learnt the most off?
In terms of players or managers?
Yeah, players.
I was lucky at the start of my career. I had Guy Adlands, who has played at Brackley. Incredible person. You only have to look at him. He's recently just battled cancer and fought cancer and won that battle. And it's a reflection of him. He's an incredible person. And I don't know why, for some reason, I think he was lucky in terms of the young boys at Nuneaton were all quite humble boys. We had big beady eyes. We were like little sponges that just wanted to absorb as much information as possible. And he liked that. And he gave his tough love in, but he was, even small things he used, after we finished training, he used to get us in a circle because we were skinny and had no muscle at the age of 17, and he'd make us do push-ups and sit-ups, and it was all just a small thing where he was like, well, this is a weakness of yours. And I do look at that and think, well, I never used to go to the gym at the age of 16, 17. And then I started to go to the gym because I thought, oh, he's teaching me that that's important, and taught me the dark arts of football at a very young age. And then as soon as he left, I was lucky that the gaffer, Gav Cowan, came and sort of took on that job role as a mentor. Mark Noon, previous assistant I learned a lot from him because he was a captain, but he wasn't like a roarer and a screamer and a shouter. He led by example, and he was very sort of like psychological in his approach as a captain, which I'm probably more of a growler, but I learned that side as well, that you do have to have that side to your captaincy as well. You can't just always growl and scream. So yeah, I'd say as football players, those three were big major influences in my career, because they were senior lads that took a shine to me and nurtured me, and not only taught me to be a good football player, but also like a good person off the pitch, the way you conduct yourself, the way you speak, the way you behave and stuff like that. And I like to think I'm all of those things now, hopefully.
Okay, yeah. Someone asked there, obviously you mentioned earlier all the great centre backs you played with alongside yourself. If you could put your finger on one of them, who would be the best one you've played with?
Oh, mate, it's such a hard question. Yeah, I'd struggle with like one, because like Gudge is a great friend of mine. And when he was in his prime, he was an incredible footballer. He's had some injuries to contend with now, but he was quick. He was left-footed, technical. Just always, I think lefties always look better, don't they? He never got ran. He would head the back of your head, physical, strong. And then, Connor Hall, when he first came, he struggled at times, but he's gone on to bigger and better things the second half of the season with us. He was absolutely amazing. Louis Lomas, I loved my time with him because he reminded me of myself. He was like a young lad that wanted to learn as much as he could. He'd stare at you in the change room about like the way you put your shin pads on. He'd sit before games and say things like, "What did you eat last night? Like, what did you eat before games?" He wanted to like absorb as much information as he could from like senior players, which was brilliant. Like I can remember even once he had to play right back for us because Ellis Miles got injured, and he'd never took a throw in his life, so he couldn't throw the ball. So he was up the top with Staffy, the one of the first team coaches, practicing how to take a throw in, which at the age of like 20, 21. So I've been like Luke Graham, Thierry Ordal. I remember Thierry when I played with him. I won't do the French accent, but when he first came, he said, I hate heading the ball, so you head and I will sweep. And he used to refuse to head the ball. Like he literally just wanted to. He was almost like a striker playing at centre half. He scored like 8-9 goals that year. He'd never go and head the ball on the corner, but he'd let you crash into it and just land on the seconds and pass it into the goal. But he was, again, experienced, quick, strong. I've been so blessed, mate. I've had so many good centre half partners, and I'm lucky because I don't believe you can be a good defender by yourself. I really don't. You've got to have that relationship, and every single centre half that I've played with, I've always had an amazing relationship with. And that's something that's really important to me. Like the gaffer at Nuneaton, learnt a lot from him during our time. Theo Street, Adland, mate, I've had so many. The list is endless, but to put one name is too hard, mate. I'm not going to do that.
Fair enough. No worries. Finally,
get told off if I do that, mate.
Yeah, there'll be someone that you'll upset. Finally, it was just this might be a tricky question, but who's the worst player? Well, I say worst, but who's the best player you played against that you couldn't stand playing against?
Oh,
one player that you just had a horrible time against every time you played him.
Who's the one player? I don't think there's anyone who've ever played in non-league that I've played against thinking, oh, I like don't want to play against you. But I'll never forget I remember playing, which is a name drop, but we played in a pre-season friendly against Coventry. And when we used to play Coventry, they always used to play their first team in the first half, and they play their younger lads in the second half. And I always used to think that Callum Wilson was like worse than Sean Jeffers. So Sean Jeffers has been at St Albans and Conference South top goal scorer. And I always used to think he was better than Callum Wilson. And this one summer, I don't know what they'd done to him or what they'd fed him, but mate, he came back and he was just like a different beast. He was like ripped, big, strong, quick. He like dig his shoulder into you and he just like bounced off. He was just like a different football player. And that year he went and like slapped loads of goals in at Coventry, went and got his move, I think, to Bournemouth. Then I'm a Newcastle fan, he got his move to Newcastle.
Yeah.
So he would be like the name drop. But in terms of non-league players, yeah, I'm trying to think. I used to hate playing against the lads at Blythe, a guy called Maguire. He's not around really anymore, but he's tiny. So sometimes he feels like he goes through your legs or goes like underneath your armpits, and like you go to sort of shove someone or lean on him. He's that small. He kind of like rides it and sort of rides your rib cage rather than. I've always enjoyed playing against big physical, strong players because that just suits me, like standing up and having a battle. But yeah, little sort of small players. So he was a tricky customer to play against, and he was in a really expansive Blythe team that played really good football. So probably say him. I never used to like playing against him, but there's not been that many. I don't think that I've worried or had sleepless nights over as such. It might change next year, but we'll soon find out.
Yeah, fair play. Now, obviously, I look forward to coming up down to St James's Park again next season. Obviously, I'll be away from working here, so I'll be back in town, so I'll be at a lot more games. But I'm looking forward to it. Best of luck for the season ahead.
No, I appreciate it, mate. It's good to catch up.
We'll follow it closely. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to meeting you back at the ground there.
Sounds good, mate. We'll have a drink.